America's secret war, those escalating drone attacks in the air and the consequences on the ground. And the question, is it making the United States safer?
1 o'clock in the afternoon, April 6th, 2026. A private airstrip in the California high desert. America's most advanced AI combat drone just crashed on takeoff. No pilot, no warning. The YFQ-42A Dark Merlin, the jet-powered artificial intelligence fighter built to fly alongside America's new 6th-generation fighter, rotated off the runway at Grey Butte Airport, and seconds later, it was a smoking hole in the Mojave. $20 to $30 million of aircraft, the first collaborative combat aircraft to ever take flight in American history. The lead contender to fly into Chinese airspace alongside the F-47 by the end of this decade. Gone. The Pentagon calls it a mishap. The media calls it a disaster, and China is calling it proof that America can't deliver. This isn't a setback, it's a test. And what happens next reveals something most people don't understand about how the United States Air Force actually builds the future of air combat. For the next few minutes, we're breaking down exactly what happened at Grey Butte, what the Dark Merlin really is, why the entire collaborative combat aircraft program is not, I repeat, is not, halted, and why one crashed drone in the desert just became one of the most important training events in modern American air power. If you believe America's engineers still build the most advanced weapons on the planet, type proud in the comments below. The crash, April 6, 2026. Approximately 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Grey Butte Airport, a General Atomics company-owned test facility in the Mojave Desert, north of Palmdale, California. A YFQ-42A prototype, one of at least 3 production representative airframes General Atomics has built, rolled down the runway, rotated, and climbed into the California sky. Seconds later, it was on the ground. No injuries, no civilian damage, because Grey Butte was specifically designed for this. A private, secure, isolated desert strip where America tests the aircraft no one is supposed to see. General Atomics immediately did what any responsible defense contractor does. They suspended all YFQ-42A flight tests. Their spokesman, C. Mark Brinkley, issued a statement, quote, "Safety is our top priority. In this case, established procedures and safeguards worked as intended, and there were no injuries." Here's the part the numbers don't capture. Under Air Force regulations, a Class A aviation mishap, the most serious classification, kicks in anytime damage exceeds $2.5 million. A Dark Merlin prototype costs between $20 and $30 million. So the investigation goes straight to the top of the Air Force Safety Center. Telemetry, wreckage, flight control data, all of it. The typical timeline for a Class A Accident Investigation Board report? 3 to 6 months. The American public isn't going to know the official cause for a long time, but the fact that the aircraft crashed on takeoff narrows the possibilities considerably. What the Dark Merlin actually is. Before we go any further, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it means a lot to us. Now let's talk about the aircraft itself, because most people don't understand what the Dark Merlin actually represents. The YFQ-42A is not a surveillance drone. It is not a Predator. It is not a Reaper. It is a jet-powered, low-observable, single-engine uncrewed fighter. A loyal wingman. A combat aircraft designed from the first rivet to fly into the most heavily defended airspace on Earth and come out the other side. The nickname Dark Merlin was announced on February 23, 2026. It refers to the Merlin falcon, a small bird of prey that hunts in flocks. That's not marketing, that's doctrine, because this aircraft is built to fly in swarms. Under the hood, the Dark Merlin is a militarized evolution of General Atomics XQ-67A sensing platform. Both belong to the company's Gambit family, a modular chassis where multiple drone variants share the same landing gear, propulsion core, and avionics. The aircraft has a dorsal engine inlet and a V-tail. That inlet design hides the engine's compressor blades from ground-based radar, critical for stealth penetration. It carries an internal weapons bay designed for 2 AIM-120 AMRAAM air-to-air missiles, with future upgrades for the longer-range AIM-260. Its maiden flight was August 27, 2025, making it the first collaborative combat aircraft prototype in American history to take to the air. Automated taxi, automated takeoff, waypoint patrol, return to base, landing, all without a human at the controls. Translation: This drone can fight its way into enemy airspace, hit a target, and fly itself home. That is what crashed on April 6th. The bigger program. Here's what most people don't understand. The Dark Merlin is not a single project. It is one piece of something much larger, the United States Air Force Collaborative Combat Aircraft Program, the CCA. The mission is simple: build more than 1,000 autonomous combat drones. Field them alongside the F-22, the F-35, and the new F-47, and do it for 25 to 30% of the cost of a single F-35. In April 2024, the Air Force made a ruthless down-select. Boeing, eliminated. Lockheed Martin, eliminated. Northrop Grumman, eliminated. 2 companies were chosen to build the first prototypes: General Atomics with the YFQ-42A and Anduril Industries, a defense tech startup founded by the guy who built Oculus Virtual Reality, with the YFQ-44A. Translation: the Air Force deliberately broke with its traditional defense giants and bet on speed. Then, in December 2025, the service did something unusual. They added a third competitor. Northrop Grumman came back with a self-funded prototype called Project Talon. They spent their own money. They built an aircraft, and the Air Force designated it the YFQ-48A Talon Blue and added it to the race. 3 drones, 3 contractors, 1 production contract, summer 2026, and the fiscal year 2027 budget backs it up. Nearly $1 billion to buy the first batch of CCAs, about 30 production aircraft, plus another $1.3 billion for research and development. This is not a program that gets halted because one drone crashed. Why program halted is wrong. For those of you who've served or who follow defense acquisition closely, you already know where this is going. The media framing around the Dark Merlin crash was wrong. Full stop. Yes, General Atomics paused its own YFQ-42A flight tests. That's not a program halt. That's standard aerospace practice. You don't fly the next airframe until you understand what broke. But the other 2 competitors? They never stopped flying. Anduril's YFQ-44A Fury made its first flight on October 31, 2025. Different design philosophy entirely. Chin-mounted air inlet, cruciform tail, swept trapezoidal wings, a Williams turbofan pushing 4,000 pounds of thrust. The Fury is built to outmaneuver enemy fighters, sustained loads of +9 and -3 Gs. And right now, it is not grounded. It is in production at Anduril's Arsenal 1 factory in Ohio. Northrop Grumman's YFQ-48A Talon Blue got its official designation on December 22, 2025. First flight projected for mid-2026, 50% lower part count, 1,000 pounds lighter, powered by a Pratt & Whitney commercial turbofan adapted for military use. And the Air Force Secretary himself, Troy Mike, made the Pentagon's position crystal clear the day after the Dark Merlin crash. His exact words: "This is exactly why we test. CCA is advancing at an unprecedented pace, and disciplined developmental testing allows us to push systems to their limits, learn quickly, reduce risk, and refine capability before it is ever placed into operational use." Translation: the Pentagon expects drones to crash in the desert. That's the whole point. Break the hardware early so you never lose pilots later. The summer 2026 production contract is still on schedule. The 1,000 aircraft fleet target is still on track. And the American Air Force just demonstrated something our adversaries struggle to replicate: the ability to lose metal, take the hit, and keep building. The F-47 connection. Now here's the part that matters most. The YFQ-42A, and every CCA in the program, is built for one mission above all others: to fly alongside the Boeing F-47, America's new 6th-generation fighter. The F-47 was awarded to Boeing in March 2025. Combat radius over 1,000 nautical miles. Top speed above Mach 2, at least 185 planned, replacing the aging F-22 Raptor fleet. But here's what adversaries don't want to admit. The F-47 by itself is not the weapon. The F-47 plus its drones, that is the weapon. The doctrine is called manned-unmanned teaming. Each F-47 pilot will command between 2 and 5 collaborative combat aircraft in combat. The human pilot stays at standoff distance. The drones push forward into the highest threat zones. Sensor nodes, electronic warfare jammers, missile trucks, and kinetic strike platforms. A single human brain, directing a swarm of autonomous killers. Want to know why the Pentagon is so aggressive about getting CCAs into production? Look at what China did in December 2024. Chinese aerospace scientists ran a simulation, J-20 versus F-22. They even handicapped the J-20's radar to match the older Raptor. Result: the J-20 had less than a 10% chance of surviving the engagement. Then they ran the same simulation with the J-20 flying alongside 2 to 3 autonomous drones. Result: a 95% win rate. Let that sink in. A 95% kill ratio against the F-22 Raptor, an aircraft that has never lost an air-to-air engagement in its entire operational history. That is why the Collaborative Combat Aircraft Program cannot fail. That is why Secretary Mike doesn't panic when a drone crashes. That is why the United States is willing to lose metal in the Mojave to make sure we never lose pilots over the Taiwan Strait. The Russia contrast. There's a growing community of aviation professionals and veterans tracking exactly what happened at Grey Butte, because they understand what the global stakes really are. In October 2024, Russia's flagship Loyal Wingman, the S-70 Okhotnik B stealth drone, suffered a catastrophic command and control failure over Ukraine. Russian ground controllers lost contact with their own aircraft, and to prevent it from crossing into Ukrainian hands with its stealth technology intact, the accompanying Su-57 fighter was forced to shoot down its own drone. Their own drone, in combat. Because their autonomy software failed, then it got worse. Ukrainian intelligence recovered the wreckage, and inside Russia's supposedly indigenous stealth drone, they found dozens of Western-made microelectronics, analog devices, Texas Instruments, Xilinx. Russia's most advanced autonomous aircraft was running on smuggled American and European chips. Now compare those two realities. Russia's Loyal Wingman failed in live combat, was destroyed by its own side, and turned out to be built with stolen Western technology. America's Loyal Wingman crashed on a secured test airstrip during a deliberate envelope push, and the program kept moving forward the next morning. That is the difference between failure and iteration. The crash of the Dark Merlin is not the story most people think it is. The real story is this. America is the only nation on Earth simultaneously flight testing 3 autonomous combat drones for the same production contract. The only nation whose Secretary of the Air Force can watch a $20 million prototype explode in the desert and say, publicly, "This is exactly why we test." The only nation whose industrial base can absorb a hull loss on a Monday and have 2 other competitors still flying on Tuesday. That is not luck. That is doctrine. That is decades of acquisition reform, competitive pressure, and institutional learning. The Dark Merlin will fly again. General Atomics built the Predator. They built the Reaper. They built the Gray Eagle. They will figure out what failed at Grey Butte on April 6, 2026, and the next Dark Merlin will be better because of it. The Fury is in production. The Talon Blue is preparing for first flight. The F-47 is being built in St. Louis right now. And by the end of this decade, the most advanced air combat system in human history will be in the sky over the Pacific. A single American pilot inside a 6th-generation fighter commanding a swarm of autonomous wingmen. That is the future of air warfare, and no crash in the Mojave is going to change it.